Hi, hi guys, it's Adam at the Astro Imaging channel. Um, Today we have today's actually an open chat session, so we're open to any topics that may come up. I posted a few in the comment section of the event that I was interested in going over, and those are the science using our or doing science using our equipment. A lot of our astro imaging equipment is well suited for doing particular science, as I call it. And I'll go into the details of what I mean by that. But it's uh, it's a good opportunity to kind of, if that's something you're interested in, to try it out. And the other topic I was going to bring up, or that was suggested to bring up, was rating images. And there's going to be some crossover. So when I go into that, I'll show you kind of where it crosses over. Um, and then somebody else has provided data that we might take a look at in a little bit. So, can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure you could nod away if you can hear me. Okay. Um, so, I've been wanting to go over the science topic for a while, because that's, I think, what if it's not what got you into astro imaging, it's probably what the appeal of astro imaging is to a lot of us, because uh, you had to urge to do those home experiments, but rather than doing a home experiment, you bought a telescope. And the I think all of us kind of, we look at our data and say, oh, wouldn't it be great if I made a great discovery or this or that? But the truth is that takes a commitment. You have to watch it you have to do it for a long time. You have to try really hard. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And since when you go and look, and I'm going to jump right in and say, our gear is most well suited to photometry, which you're basically studying the light that's coming off whatever object it is you're looking at. Um, there are other branches of science that you can do with our gear, but they do kind of require you to buy specialized hardware. Spectroscopy, for example, um, you have to buy a particular piece of hardware. Photometry you can actually do with your DSLR. You can do it with a CCD camera. DSLR obviously more difficult. CCD a little bit more well suited to do it. In fact, a lot of the pros are using the CCD. So what is it? What is it? Well, first of all, why is our gear well suited for it? Well, what do? You pretty much track a star and take multiple exposures and compare those exposures. When I say compare those exposures, you're basically studying the light curves, and you're, depending on the aspect you're doing, you're basically looking for either dips or increases in the light. Uh, but you can take that any way you'd like, because photometry actually has a lot of different branches. Some people are looking for asteroids, near-Earth objects. Some people may be looking at variable stars. One of the things that excites a lot of people are supernova hunts. There are people who just search around for supernovas. There are galaxies that are good candidates for supernovas, or there are galaxy clusters that are good candidates for supernovae, and they just watch those particular clusters. Um, I you can search for comets, although I don't know if that's necessarily considered. Well, I guess it would be considered photometry, or maybe more astrometry, because you're looking for the motion in the objects. But there's a lot of stuff you can actually do with our gear, and the reason that I really wanted to bring it up this time, or this session, is because we had, and I really hope he doesn't mind me bringing it up, but we had a kind of exciting moment for a while. Hytham, who's presented here in the past and who's on the Cloudy Nights boards, posted that he had a potential supernova. and it was in Cygnus. He gave the RA and DEC and just asked for some confirmation. And I was set up. It was clear, and I said, you know what? I'll give 5-6 frames to Hytham, and I started shooting it. He gave the RA and DEC. It was easy enough. So I downloaded it. Sure enough, I had issues with Dropbox getting it onto my other computer, so it took me like 10 or 15 minutes. And of course, this is what you're doing. You're racing against the clock because you think you might have a discovery. And I could imagine what Hytham was going through, thinking it over in hindsight. He was I don't want to say he's embarrassed, but he didn't think he should have reported. He did report it, which is probably the best thing he could do. Do you think you have a potential object? Report it. He reported to the IAU, I believe, the International Astronomical Union. I may be wrong about that, though. He might have. I know it came from I know they're represented by Harvard, so I don't know if that's where they are. But either way, it's better to report, even if you have a false positive, to just get some confirmation. So and what he did was he reported it and then posted it on the Cloudy Nights board. And so like I said, I decided to give him a few minutes of my time, and I pointed up there, took my shots, had some issues with Dropbox, finally got it over, started going through it, and I was comparing, and it took me a while. And the reason it took me a while is because I didn't see the object that he saw. And that was pretty much the disappointment. I posted it online, and I said, oh, I don't see it, which means it wasn't the supernova that we were hoping for. It wasn't going to grow to be a really bright object. Giving its position in Cygnus, somebody suggested that it could be a supernova within this galaxy, which would be extremely rare. I think there are 2 supernovae per galaxy, or maybe that's just in our galaxy, depending on its size, but and type. Oh, per 100 years. I'm sorry. But either way, so it wasn't an exciting discovery. But you know what? I had fun chasing it down, and I think Hytham was really excited for a little while. But that's the hunt, and it caused me to do some research, and I looked up what some people are doing in supernova hunts, and there's some guys who are discovering a lot, and they're doing it in a pretty methodical way. Like I said, you point at galaxy clusters, but I guess depending on you want a galaxy that I believe is still in its star forming age, so you're more looking for spiral galaxies over elliptical galaxies, and I believe that's the case. Maybe if I'm wrong, somebody's welcome to correct me. But there's a pretty methodical way to do it, and you take lots and lots of exposures. But whereas this is one of the exciting things, whereas we're taking 5, 7, 8, 10, 20-minute exposures for narrowband, they take 1-minute exposures. So despite the fact that they say they need really, really good equipment, it's not quite as taxing on your equipment as astro imaging is, or astro imaging when you start really pushing it, particularly deep sky. So our gear is well suited to do it, and so I looked it up. What are these guys actually doing? And the interesting thing is there are automated ways to look at data. One of the programs I've actually used in the past, Astronomica is the name of it, and I'll just show you the screen because, I'm sorry, Astrometrica, and hopefully you can see the screen, but basically, and just chime in if you can't see the screen. Basically, you load up your images, and I'm sorry, I thought I had.
I'm not seeing the screen.
Oh, you're not seeing the screen?
No.
Yeah, I didn't see it on mine either. Oh, wow. And it's giving me a failure. All right, well, that was not going to work, but Astrometrica Uh, before I used it for plate solving before some of the newer programs were around, but it will rate 3 to 6 frames and look for any detect any motion of any particular objects within those frames. So it's a good way to find asteroids, satellites, if that's what you're looking to do. But its limitation, and I don't know if this is just the version I have, is 3 to 6 frames only. So when I go online and find out what the people who are actually discovering the supernovae are doing, they're actually blinking through the frames manually, doing it the old-fashioned way, and I think that it's pretty familiar for a lot of us because that's the way a lot of us inspect our frames. So, oh, the other piece of software that I don't have, and I don't know if anyone out there has it, Pinpoint, I believe does a lot, has a lot of photometry type applications to it. But I'm not at all familiar with it, so I can't comment on that. When it comes to, and now here's where I'm going to transition to rating images, because I'm going to switch over to PixInsight, and I know you guys don't see it yet. There you go. Now, do you see PixInsight?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, the way there are 2 ways to rate images in PixInsight. One, using your eyes, and the blink process, which is over here. If you don't have PixInsight, that program that I referenced earlier, Astrometrica, does have a blink function, and it works with FITS files, so it is actually a free way to use it. But in PixInsight, you can use blink, and I set it on whatever time it is, and you can blink through them. It does flip the images. Now, I primarily use this just to inspect the images and see which ones. This is the Cave Nebula. I've been shooting this over the last 4 days. Well, I should say 5 days. It's been clear for about, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours, and I kind of got 2 hours here, 1 hour there. But as you can see, a lot of the clouds moved in, and there are bad frames in it. But this is the same way you would go about looking for any sort of moving object. At the same time, if, say, you're blinking through them and you see a brightening object, it might be something to look at. If you're looking for supernovae, you're most likely going to see them in galaxies. So that's not the type of thing I would see in this image, but still, it's something to know. And I don't know if you guys even saw that blinking through. I hope you did, but it was interesting just watching it, because at this point you're mostly seeing just cosmic ray hits, not really anything that was moving. The noise was moving around a little bit, but that was about it. The other function that I use in PixInsight to rate my images is called Subframe Selector, and I actually had it set up, but it crashed on me earlier. I think it's going to store a lot of the data, though, so we will see. There we go. PixInsight automatically, well, this is the way that PixInsight rates the data. It gives you a weight, which I believe takes into account a few different parameters, and you can sort the table by that weight, and that gives you a good idea. The other thing you can use is full width half max, which pretty much tells you the tightness of your stars, and if the seeing got bad or if your focus got bad, that is going to rise, and it's going to tell you, or at least make you take notice of those frames. If clouds move in or something like that, it may or may not let you know about that. Eccentricity is the roundness of your stars, and you typically want to have that below 55. Above 55, or excuse me, 0.55, above that, you're going to start seeing some oval-like stars. And those are actually the primary things that I use. There's also star support. That just tells you how many stars it can find in your image. And basically, as it's getting low on the horizon, or as you're starting to consider culling the frames, you'll see them lower. So I basically go to star support. I look which frames are on the bottom. I look to see if the full width half max for those frames is poor. Same with the eccentricity. And it helps me rule out. So with this particular batch, I had to take, I don't know, I have like 35 frames, and I think I used 25 of them. So I ended up getting rid of a lot of them.
Hey,
And
I apologize. It's been a couple of weeks since this is Robert. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been here. Are we doing questions at the end, or?
no, you can go right ahead if you have a question.
Okay, in regards to the subframe selector, do you do anything as an expression? Because I just add my files and measure with the subframe selector. I've tried a couple times doing the expressions, but I know that can get kind of complicated.
Adding expressions. Oops, where did I close subframe selector? I think I did. I did that a little while ago too. But I haven't, and I'm not even so familiar with that.
Because you can put in an expression like, for the FWHM, what sizes and everything like that you want to have, and I've seen a couple of them, but I've always just then, measure and then just look at the plot, and once the plot is done, then I can go and delete the ones that I don't want.
Yep. Yeah. And actually, at the same time, one of the things that, and this is why I don't use this as frequently. It kind of depends on the particular data, but one of the things that I do is I monitor the full width half max and the star support in Sequence Generator Pro as my stars are coming in, using the I forget the name of the tool, but it's one of the tools, and it actually plots that as well. And I really like that feature because I can actually, as the frames come in, if I see it's bad, then I can mark it as bad immediately. So yeah, here you go. Here I plotted it out by full width half max, and this is basically what I see in Sequence Generator Pro. And got cloudy here. This day I got 2 frames that got cloudy. This day it just kind of was bad the whole time. But it's basically what you see.
Have you tried Sequence Generator Pro's got that one tool, and it may be the one you're speaking of, but the way I use it is to call up all the frames that I took in a given series and have them rate it, and then I usually exclude something below a certain overall point rating.
Yeah. Yeah, image history, right? Is that what it is?
No, it's not image history. I forget what the name of it. It's one of the tool menus. Pull it down. I think it's Grade Images.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one you're talking about, Adam, that's the one you're referring to also, that you can see the plots going along.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a plot in but I maybe haven't explored it. Okay.
Yeah, the plot's kind of cool. Like, it lets you know if you're focusing frequently enough. I don't know. I'm having issues with my Rigel focuser and Sequence Generator Pro. They're actually fixing it, hopefully as we speak. So we'll see. But I watch my focus very carefully, and it's been interesting to watch just over time. It seems like with the SCT, every degree Celsius, it's kind of important to focus.
Hey, I'd like to point out something. So for DSLR users, if you use Backyard EOS, you can uh, make part of the file name give you the full width half maximum, and you can sort by the score for your subs.
That's yeah, that's interesting. Now, the other thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. And you guys can see Photoshop, right?
Yes, now.
All right. So this is the data that Sean provided today, and I don't know. First of all, he provided this is the raw. Is this straight out of what stacking program are you using, Sean?
That's Deep Sky Stacker.
Deep Sky Stacker, yeah. So straight out of Deep Sky Stacker, you get your dim image, and I think he said it was only 36 minutes.
39. 13 at 3 minutes, I think.
Yeah, so 39 minutes, and I guess it's kind of a bright object, if you could call the emission nebula bright, but I just started playing with it, and literally 5 minutes later, I got that out of it. And that was not trying hard. That was just kind of thinking, oh, I don't care about the stars, I don't care about this, I don't care about that, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, wait, I should be paying attention to this, because this might turn out really nicely. But I think Sean benefited from some high altitude and some dark skies, but actually a really nice image. We were before this, Sean and I were discussing, and we did notice some flaring on the stars, and I think both of us were a little bit curious if anybody had any clues. And I noticed it, and I know you're probably losing it for 1 sec, but I noticed it on these stars up here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we were just wondering if anybody, you thought that was pure collimation.
You're talking about the purple halo almost, or the purple halo to the top of the monitor?
Yeah.
What were you imaging with?
It's a 10-inch SCT using a 0.63 focal reducer.
That's odd, because it seems like it's only on those stars, though. Instead of all the stars, it's only on those.
They're really bright, too.
Is it all the way around in the corners and across the middle?
Not well. You know, on the blue star, do focal reducers like display chromatic aberration?
Yeah, they do have. They're not perfect optics, and yeah, so they can do that. Yeah.
I almost feel like I've seen it in my focal reducer for the Edge, but I never really considered the fact that they could do that. But that's kind of what it looks like, because it does look like it's in the blue channel, and the bluer the stars are, the more of that kind of spikiness they have.
Yeah, but they're like off-center, like away from.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was asking. Is it in the opposite corner? You showed us the upper left corner.
Okay, yeah,
Down the lower right, where is it?
Yeah, it's pointing down.
See, it's pointing the opposite way,
Opposite
right?
way, yeah.
Yeah, that's a chromatic aberration, by definition.
Yeah.
Did you you got what's his name? The actions there where you just remove blue halos?
Actually,
Right. Yeah, I have that on mine. I didn't use it on my particular image, but I did. I have the Carboni's actions, right?
Carbonis, yeah, yeah. I think that'll probably kill that off if you even need to kill it off. Yeah, you got to watch out. Some of those actions take out other things that you don't want taken out. But
Doesn't the Photoshop also have something like a lens correction or a chromatic correction that it has in it? I haven't used Photoshop in a while, so.
why? It, it does have a filter in Lightroom and in Photoshop that does correct for lens aberrations. I'm not so sure whether it would be harder to program it because obviously you're not going to be able to just just tell it, oh, it's a Canon 105 or something like that, where it already has the file for it as to how it aberrates things. But yes, Photoshop does have a correction. I don't know how well it does on chromatic aberration so much as distortion.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit hit and miss. In my really, really early days, I was trying to use it, and it was, I mean, you could probably get it to work, but not reliably, or it's more for making a bad image just a little bit better, not really. I think it would just make this image worse if I tried.
I use it for lens distortions on particularly wide angles and wide angle lenses or something where something's going goofy off in the corners.
Yep. Yeah, but it was a nice image to play with. I might give it more time after this. So I didn't know. Okay, we got a question from Q&A. Is that M8 image red biased or a single filter? When I image it with my DSLR, I get a clear differentiation between red emission and blue reflection areas.
Right, I'm using a Beta modified camera, so it has the original LPF2 filter removed, and it's more sensitive to hydrogen alpha, so it does have a red bias. And I think maybe part of the red bias in this particular image had to do with my stacking. In Deep Sky Stacker, I did not align the images, the channels, red, green, and blue channels. I think that might have had an effect on the red bias.
Well, interesting. What that would do with the blue too? If you didn't, how did you manage to get it that good without registering it?
No, in Deep Sky Stacker, there's an option to align the RGB channels in the final stacked output, and I don't think that was checked. So the red channel is to the right in the final stacked image. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't.
No, it's opaque to me.
Red, green, and blue unless you tell it to.
Sorry. Okay, I believe you. I just don't understand how you could get what you got without aligning the channels.
It's kind of like the weight that you're putting in Deep Sky Stacker. It's like kind of like putting the weight in.
Oh, the color, the strength of each color relative to each other. That it balance. Right. It asks you to balance the color. Okay. I was thinking the words you were using reminded me of registering it, where you put one star on top of the other to make sure that they're all aligned. So
no.
The bright. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Did you end up having a LP filter on or no?
No, I drove up to the mountains last night, so this was at 5,000 feet plus in a blue zone, so there was no light pollution.
Oh man, I wish I could get that.
Yeah, I got lucky. It clouded out almost right after this, but at least I got something for the trip, right?
Yeah, there's no substitute for driving to darker skies.
True.
And I don't know, did 2 new messages in chat? Okay.
I usually, instead of interrupting, I try to do side chats there. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was actually in Q&A because we did get that one question. So, again, to all of our viewers outside who can't get into the live session, you're welcome to click a question in Q&A, or you could put a question in the comments of the Hangout, the event of the Google Plus page, and we'll try and get to them. I'm going to jump right out, check that real quick, and see if there's any new comments, which there don't appear to be.
Could I ask a question about your rating of the images?
Go ahead.
You showed us PixInsight. PixInsight gives a report of the full width half maximums and then it even gives you an overall rating. That was in the first column, I think, right there, right?
The weight, yes.
Yeah, the weight. Okay. Now, I think if you click at the top of each of those columns, it orders everything according to that particular column, right?
Yep.
Okay. So if I wanted to pick, I've got 30 exposures of the same thing, and I wanted to pick 20 best ones. I could go over there, tell it to go rate it. It would get all that information for me together, rate it out for me, and then I could tell it to sort it according to that, and I could just look at the bottom 5 and say, okay, you guys are gone automatically. Or I could look at some natural breakpoint, like it says, 0, 40, 42, 47, 49, 50, and then it jumps up to 75 and all the way up to 100 from there. I could go up, okay, I want everything above 75, but anything that's way back down there below that under the weighting, throw it out. I could do something like that, right?
Yep.
Okay. That's essentially what I do, but I always thought it was kind of ad hoc and that I should be getting more out of all that data. But what you're telling me is, no, there's not a whole lot more in that data than what we just said.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the quality of the subs you have coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that I'm scrutinizing my data so much right now is really because I've had a lot of cloudy nights, and even the first night I let it run till 6 a.m. It got sunny, so I had to pay a lot of attention to it. For the most part, if I know it's been clear, I know my data is going to be pretty good. I might check it really quickly, but I might not even use subframe selector. But if I'm struggling with an issue like elongated stars and I'm testing that, then sometimes the eccentricity values will help. Sometimes it might help you realize that your eccentricity is getting worse as you approach the meridian, which might indicate a balance issue. So there's some little factors like that you can get a little bit more out of it, but in general it's just rating an image. So,
and you find that an eccentricity of 0.55 is relatively unnoticeable?
That's what I've heard, so that's the rule I've stuck to.
Okay, and that rating set goes from 0, which means that it's a long oval, to 1, which means that it's a perfect circle. Is that correct?
I think it might be
the other way around. 0 is a perfect circle, and 1 is a long oblong oval or something.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I tend to stick to 0.2s and that kind of stuff before,
Oh, in eccentricity?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever see 0.2. Mine
Okay.
all hover like above and below 0.50.
Okay. Let me ask you about blinking over in PixInsight.
Yep.
Yeah. You put a bunch of images into the file, and you say, okay, show me these images. And what I do is I set it to go for half a second, and I say, show them to me each for half a second. And I just look at them 2 or 3 times to kind of figure out what I'm getting. Then you can go ahead and you can apply a screen stretch according to one of the pictures.
Yes.
Get a perfect screen stretch for this and apply it to all the other pictures. Or just what do you do when you get there? Do you do that, or do you just the other choice, I guess, is having them stretched individually. For each one, give its best screen stretch. So what do you do?
I do the auto STF. I just let it do the auto screen stretch and let it go through them. I'm not looking to make the pictures as pretty as possible. I just want to see if the clouds have moved in, if one frame got bumped.
Okay, how do you tell if clouds have moved in?
Well, on these images, let me flip back over to PixInsight because I'm not sure how clear it was. The not my skies, the video flipping through or the animation flipping through. I'm going to set it on 1 second, and let me go up to the top. This is image 10, so this.
Now, in this case, each of these images, as we see them, is stretched to its own parameters.
No, actually, I believe each of these images is stretched to a parameter that was applied to one of the images.
Okay, so you picked one of them and said this is the ideal image or something like that. You would discover whatever the parameters are, apply it to this and all other images.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like the screen transfer function's flipping around or changing that much. If you do see a change in the image, it's because something changed out there. Whether it be the horizon approaching, the sun coming up, whatever it might be. So actually, even rather than blinking, I'm just going to scroll down them, and you could see still dark skies. My meridian flipped at 12, 13, still dark skies at 14. This is 16. I had previously marked 15 bad. Something happened to it. This is 17.
They're getting brighter, right?
What's that?
Are they getting brighter, right?
It's getting a little bit brighter. It's 19, so it's probably approaching.
Is it brighter or is it contrastier?
No, I think it's actually getting brighter. Two things are happening. It's leaving the. I'm trying to think. It's the Cave Nebula, so it's getting closer to the horizon, but it's also going over the city. So it is losing contrast at the same time. I think it's just getting kind of dimmed out by the city, even though it is H alpha.
Okay, it's losing contrast because you've got more light background. Are we talking at the same time, Sean? Go ahead. Okay, it's losing contrast because the sky itself is getting brighter over there, and so the background sky is getting brighter, and therefore losing contrast overall, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
And frame 19, and you can see that jump from frame 18 to frame 19. And actually, here's 20, even brighter, 21, and I'm losing all that contrast. There's 23, and you can see it's probably sunrise right now. When I'm shooting H alpha right now.
I have a question. So what if your full width half maximum values are good through all of these? Like, how do you know where to say, you know what, it's just not worth it anymore? It's down in the light dome, and any of the subs that I got that are just not going to be any good.
Well, usually I have a good idea as to which subs were. Usually it's my later subs. When I'm shooting H alpha, I get 20-minute subs, and if I start at 9 o'clock or like 8:55 right now, then I know that, and the object is in the right spot, which I tend to image objects that are just coming up in the east. This one maybe being a little bit later, but I do know that when I get to 18, 19, 20, 21 for the day or for the night, I have to scrutinize those very well, and a lot of the times when I'm stacking, I just eliminate everything after 19. Those subs that are after that are usually I'm sitting in bed saying, should I shut it all down? And I'm thinking to myself, no, I don't want to wake up. It's just going to park itself after a few seconds.
Well, the one that you have on screen right now, you would.
I would dump this. I would dump this.
Yeah.
Compared to which?
Compared to that right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I kept. And that's an even better one.
Right.
It's flipped. Hold on. Let me go back here, and you can see that. Well, hold on. I'm sorry. It's jumping around. It's gonna flip. This is frame 20. This is frame 21. This is frame 23. 23 flips. Trying to think what was up with 23. It was probably the next day, and either it was bad or something. That was the next day. But you can. I think you guys can probably see like the clear difference between the good ones and the bad ones. And
is it basically just so that this one doesn't have a darker background, that one does, right?
Darker background. This one doesn't. Yeah.
And what's happening is that it's going over the city, and the sun is coming up, or is it just a morning fog that comes in at your house?
It could be all of the. It could be any of them. And I'm trying to think. If this one, I think, was just clouds, was just fog coming in, actually in the middle of the night. Because I haven't been able to image till the morning. Last 3 outings ended up stopping at 11 p.m. because of clouds. So that gives you an idea as to what you're looking at.
You get about 6 hours of imaging a night.
Normally I get 6, a little bit more.
Now, Adam, I got a question for you. Because I was told I'm kind of crazy for doing this, or an idiot for doing this. Is I use an IDAS filter in front of my filter wheel.
Yeah.
I'm in a red zone, and I can take over the Sky Dome. I have no problems being able to get 30-minute subs, and the background is still fairly nice and clean.
Yeah, well, this is a Beta 8, I think it's either 8 nanometer H alpha filter, might be 7.5 nanometers or something. So this should have pretty good rejection relative to a light pollution filter. And I don't think the light dome is what's making it really gray out like this. I think that's more the sunrise coming up. I think the light dome is just a slight impact in some of the earlier frames, but and it's not just the light dome, it's going over the horizon, so it's passing through a lot more atmosphere, and the Beta just doesn't have the rejection that some of the stronger Astrodons have. But I know some people do that, some people don't. I don't have an opinion on it either way. It's very tempting for me to try because I definitely deal with light pollution.
The reason I do it is because I don't want to have to keep taking my light pollution filter on and off when I'm switching between HA and my color. My color, I have to have the LP filter on there, and I don't necessarily need it for the HA. But if I keep doing that, it's going to adjust my autofocusing, so I just leave it on all the time. So I have to take, so I take longer HA images, but it's not really that much of a huge difference.
What impact would it really have if your HA filter is narrower than what the light pollution filter allows in anyway?
Yeah, theoretically the H alpha should just pass right through both of them. There might be a slight difference in your background, but I mean, if you can get your histogram separated, then it's probably a non-issue. That might be the difficult thing. That is one of the difficult things with H alpha filters. Or narrowband filters, but even this is a funny thing. In regards to narrower passes of narrowband filters, they say you don't really need longer exposures because you're still passing all the H alpha. It's more a matter of your exposure is fixed, but you do still have the desire to get that histogram spike off the left side and separate it from the read noise, which I think is probably really difficult with the narrow band. That's something I'm curious about because I don't know if it helps or hurts having light pollution sneak through or not, but it's definitely...
Can I ask, if you leave the light pollution filter on, and you get pictures, have you tried it with the light pollution filter not there using the narrow band, and what effect does it in fact have?
I haven't really messed with it because it's the whole process. Because I have the like Adam has too is the William Optic 81 or I'm sorry William Optic 71 where the camera screws right onto the back of the scope. So it's kind of a pain to keep unscrewing it and screwing it back on. I don't want the metal dust, even though I very finely lubricate those threads. I don't want to have to keep taking it on and off, on and off. So, I just better
So
off just keeping
we
LP
really
filter
don't
on.
know whether it has any effect or not. We know that
Correct.
you can get good contrasty images even over the light dome, and you think it's probably because you're putting in the IDAS as well as the narrow bands, but in fact we don't know that.
Exactly.
Okay.
I know that it definitely helps my red, green, and blue because I did do a test between because they were saying there's the Astrodon gap for the LP filtering or for the LP, and I still get a major gradient even without the LP filter. So I have to use the LP filter.
I was going to suggest that if you do want to be in a position where you can take that filter out and out, and apparently you don't, you might want to try using filter offsets in your filter in your process and your autofocusing, and tell it when you're using a narrow band which doesn't use the IDAS filter, it's got to be compensated because that filter is not there, and the
Right.
focuser will move in an extra 10 steps or 20 steps or whatever it is.
Right. Gotcha.
But you don't want to do that anyway. You want to leave the filter in there. So
It
do
just
as
makes it
you wish.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just
Do
makes
as
it easier.
you need to.
I know it's probably an unneeded step, but with having the color and the loom, I have to have the LP filter in there. So
How efficient is that filter letting through the lights that you want?
the red, green, and blue.
IDAS.
You mean?
No, the IDAS filter, the
Oh,
light pollution filter.
it's doing good. I mean, I get 180-second of M31. I'm doing a 2-panel of M31, and
Okay.
I'm doing no problem with it.
By light transmission, I mean you've seen a light transmission graph, and where the mercury vapor is it'll be really low, and then it gets really high in between that and the silicon or halide or whatever it is. You know what I mean? The light transmission. Like Astrodon says that 90% of the hydrogen alpha gets through their hydrogen alpha filters, or 90-some percent. That's not a quote from Astrodon. What percentage light gets through? And the reason I'm asking is, let's say you've got a filter that lets 90% of the light through in a given wavelength, and you put it in front of another filter, or even without another filter, you're going to have to increase exposure. So that IDAS filter, while it may be convenient to leave it in there, may be extending your exposure times unnecessarily.
No, and that I do understand that. It's I know I'm doing usually 5 or 10-minute subs, which I could probably do less without the IDAS, but it doesn't bother me as long as I'm getting images on a clear night.
That's your decision.
How could you test that with software? So you could take two images, one with the filter, the IDAS filter, and one without. Is there software that will tell you the brightness signal to noise ratio or something? So you could like have
Sure.
a quantified.
Isn't that an ADU?
Is it just ADU?
Isn't it?
Yeah, you could use ADU. You could refine it further if you want. That's actually, it's funny because at the same time you could use some of the photometry programs to measure it even more refined. I just looked up the IDAS efficiencies, and they're, depending on the wavelength, of course, they hover between 80 and 90%. So just adding that one filter in, 15%, say, on average. You shoot for 2 hours, you've wasted 15, 20 minutes of it. So
Let me ask you this, Adam. I think it was when you were showing us the PixInsight. You had a whole bunch of FWHM and other factors listed across there. Which factor is it that names that contrast?
you know that I'm not sure of, and that's why I visually inspect them. Let me
Does
jump
anybody
back.
else know out there? Because there's a lot of stuff in PixInsight that I look at and I go, yeah, it's a nice number, good, solid, 8 digits precision, but what does it mean? And I see the columns on your image inspection, and I go, okay, those are real cute. What is it? What do they mean? What are they telling me? How do I translate that into the way the picture looks? I know full width, half maximum, and eccentricity will tell me how fat my stars are and how oval they are. See, I got those two. But some of the other ones are I haven't worked my way through.
I know that trying to get.
Can you bring that chart
That's
back up? That
working on.
table?
It does have signal to weight, or signal to ratio, or signal to noise ratio, weight, median deviation, noise, star support, star residual, noise support.
What do all those things mean?
Yeah, that I'm not sure of.
Let's see if the PixInsight hover works. No, doesn't work on these.
Okay.
You know what? When it's cloudy, I notice my star support goes down because the number of stars it's detecting comes up, and that's another one that I use closely. But really, what I'm inspecting for is eccentricity. Are they oblong for any reason at all? Full width, half max, because did I let my focus drift a little bit too much? And then that star support, and those are really the basics that I look at, along with visually inspecting the images.
Are you using an automated focuser, Adam?
I am, yes. I do have some. I'm still having some issues with it, and trying to get them worked out. So I have to wake up when I'm focusing and watch the focus routine, because just sometimes it fails right off the bat, and it's a simple, well, I don't want to say it's a simple bug, but it's like an odd bug. But
Are you talking about in Sequence Generator Pro when you do it?
yes.
I have noted on my first focusing run of the evening, I monitor that one and see how well it works. And then if it doesn't work well, if I don't get something that looks like a V, or maybe a good strong J or whatever, Y, then I'll tell it to run it again until I get something that it resembles a V. Can you get to that point, or is your focuser having some kind of software mismatch where it's not even getting that far?
Yeah, I think it's a driver issue, or it's something a driver issue interacting with Sequence Generator Pro. There's a post on the main sequence board, and the guys are working on it. We're not sure whether it's the focuser driver or the interaction. I think if we knew what the problem was, it'd be fixed. But they're working on it hard, so I can only hope that an update will fix it. But it just causes it to fail, possibly having something to do with backlash compensation. But when it fails, it just doesn't run the focus routine. So,
Alex, you know how on Adam's thing right there it shows those column names you were wondering? The link I just posted in the group chat, it explains what each of those are.
And I'm sorry, I've read that. I mean, it's not like I don't do my homework. I still don't get it after, so one of the reasons I come to this thing, it's 9:30 in my case, 6:30 in your case, every Sunday afternoon, is so that I can say, hey, what do those things really mean? And that's what this is for. And it's opaque to me. Some of the language that they use is just, I don't get it. And, I'm fairly smart.
Over my head. It's over my head a lot of times.
Yeah. It's unnecessarily over my head. I mean, eccentricity, fatness, or full width half max means fat, and eccentricity means oval. I got that. What are the words for the rest of those? And why don't they use those words instead of whatever it is they're using?
Yeah. Just make it simple and easy for us to understand.
Even the processes, it seemed like I'd love to rename them at some point.
Yeah.
Because histograms, and even, I don't know, just searching for them in alphabetized order, and you know what you want to do, and you're looking between them, and they all just seem so similar and complex at the same time. Yeah.
Color management, channel modification. You know, like, wait a minute, where did you guys decide to hide this thing?
Yeah. I feel I'm always embarrassed by like my alphabetizing when I go through the processes, and it's not just my alphabetizing; it's just the obscure names, and you're trying to think of what you want to do with it, and you can't remember.
What I don't like about it is watching you on some of these things where you're trying to do things and you're trying to alphabetize and you're singing that ABC song.
I think all of the PixInsight guys are Linux users. That probably explains it, right?
Yeah, well, okay. You know, I'm just looking for the common, ordinary words that go along with whatever those terms are that they're using.
Well, I mean, I've pretty much gone over my topics, and I don't know if anyone else had any topics to bring up.
I'd like to. This isn't a topic so much for bringing up, but I would like to tell you that on October 19th is a Sunday, I think. I've got a. I'd like to talk to you guys about how to automate an imaging session.
Awesome.
With Sequence Generator Pro?
You know, I went on a long search for how to do this a while back, how to organize a session, and just to cut to the chase, yes, with Sequence Generator Pro. But I've had enough experience with the other stuff that I am going to be able to compare those programs and make some recommendations on it. What's happening actually is that on October 25th, Warren Keller is going to be out here in California doing a presentation at Nightfall. And it's an all-day presentation where Warren will sit there. It's a really, really great start party. It's we take over an RV resort, hotel RV resort out in the California desert. It's in one of the places. It's an international dark sky site and stuff like that. So it's real cool. And we have a couple of imaging workshops going on at the same time. And one of them is Warren. Warren starts talking at about 10 o'clock to noon, and then again from 2 to 4 or so, roughly. And we always need an extra hour speaker in there someplace. And I'm the extra hour speaker. And my presentation will be, session automation, gathering data while catching Z's.
That's cool.
Is the topic.
I'm looking forward to that one.
And you guys are going to be my practice audience.
Cool.
Okay. So I'm giving it on the 25th formally and on the 19th to you guys. It's a 40-minute presentation, and basically I'm going to do my PowerPoint for you. All right, with stopping for questions and stuff like that, and then afterwards you can tell me what I should have done. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, I got something because I've been having this issue on a repeated. It's a processing thing. If I may, if not, I can wait for a different time. Is I keep burning out the cores of my stars every time I try doing star masks. I try doing all kinds of stuff. I'm strictly PixInsight. I don't have Photoshop installed. So how the heck do I resolve that?
Well, I'm having a similar problem because I just find myself pushing my data further and further and further. Let me ask you one question. You're making a star mask. Do you find yourself making multiple star masks and continuously making them, even though you're blowing out your stars maybe early on, you make another star mask? You doing it that way?
No, I usually I usually only do like one, maybe two. I do the range selection, and then I do a star mask, and then range selection for the larger star mask. But most of the time, it's just those two.
Yeah. And go ahead, Alex.
Let me ask. Do you inspect your stars before you start processing?
No.
Are they blown out before you start?
That's a good question.
Thank you. Yeah, I got a good one. Okay. No, seriously, sometimes we sit there and maybe you just expose too long because the rule that we all use is to expose for the background. That you get the sky background up to a certain level. Well, that's all very fine, except if you're taking pictures of star clusters and stuff where you want the colors of the stars. And you've got to stop before you get to 255, 255, 255. You got to stop when maybe one of them gets to 255, but the other two still have their color values. They're down below 255. Otherwise, it's going to be maxed out no matter what.
Yeah, and even with a little bit of headroom at first, just so you have that room to stretch, because you're always going to stretch a little bit, the stars a little bit. So.
Well, here in just an example, I'm going to put them in the group chat. This was like the first image I tried of my M31 that I was doing, and the center of the stars were pretty. You can kind of faintly see them. Besides doing a ring, I didn't do de-ringing, but the center of them, you see the little white dot in them. But then I have another one. This one that doesn't have the stars burnt out. Actually, they do. I apologize. But you can see it. They're not majorly burnt out, but you can still see that white dot in the center.
Have you watched the astro imaging session with Hytham on masking in pixel sight?
I got halfway through that. I know I got to get through the rest of that though.
Yeah, he has this really good technique where he sort of blurs the star mask so that the center of the star has a smooth transition from the center to the outer edge of it.
Okay.
That might help you some.
Yeah, I think it's all going to come down to the star mask and how much protection you're giving your stars. And as you go, you might have to grow the star mask a little bit or make a new star mask. Now, I'm saying that, but that's actually my experience in Photoshop. I've kind of jumped into PixInsight and back into Photoshop with star masks, and I find myself doing a little bit more now in Photoshop. But not if you don't have that, then I think that same trying to make, as your stars grow a little bit due to the stretching, just try and make sure your star mask is fitting them properly. But with those centers, I don't know if that could be some sort of sharpening artifact.
Okay.
It's kind of killing the transition. It almost looked like rather than an overstretch, it almost looked like a sharpening artifact to me. So did you do any sort of sharpening on that could have done that?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I tried. Apparently, sharpening doesn't what process it? The
HRS wavelets.
Yes. I tried using a mask to cover the stars. It doesn't affect. It makes the stars pop still. So I don't know if there's another process I can do for sharpening without getting the stars to pop out also. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a bit of my experience with that. That it did. I mean, it did its job of sharpening, but I did have a lot of problems generating star masks and PixInsight. So a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so easy to generate them." I had some problems, so I ended up doing a lot more of my stuff like that in Photoshop. But it did look a lot like that, so that might be if you're looking to improve your star mask and you're looking for a step in the process to bring it, it might be your star mask right at that HRS wavelets.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to try that then. And just kind of a whatever. What do you guys think of that? This was like about an hour and a half of processing real quick because I wanted to see how this M31 looked. Does it look okay? Does it look blurry? I know it's not the perfect, but
I think the image looks great. I mean, you when you're looking at like blown out stars like that, you're really scrutinizing it. But no, the image in general looks great. I like you've got the core in there, really well resolved with a lot of dust lanes going right to the center. I mean, the process is very, very good on it.
that was 68, 180-second lumens that allowed me to get the center core like that.
But 100 seconds?
180 second.
180 seconds, yeah. And then the outer was what exposures was the outer?
The color was 300-second binned.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking of redoing it, the colors to do one by one because of the image scale of my scope and camera. if I bin it, it's image scale of about 4.3. But if I leave it at 1 by 1, it's a 1.2 or something like that. Or I'm sorry, a 2.2 image scale. So I should be able to get better detail out of those rings with the color then too. I'm thinking. I could be wrong.
Now this is the William Optics?
That's the William Optics 71 with the QSI 690.
690, okay. I was going to say you must have one of the Sony chips because the field of view. I intentionally bought the William Optics 71 because it should fit Andromeda nicely into the field of view with the 8300. And
yeah, it definitely will. I mean, I could get this in one diagonally, but I wanted to have it squared off and be able to get the outer dust lane, and so that's why I did the two-panel. I'm going to do a two-panel mosaic on it.
Yep. And I don't know if I technically own it yet because I'm still waiting for mine. I think it shipped from William Optics, or it was supposed to ship from William Optics on the 15th to my vendor, and then they're shipping it to me.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I'm trying to be patient, and I don't want to call them and bother them because I already did a bunch of times.
I know when I emailed William Optics, they, I talked to them directly. I didn't talk to any vendor. I talked to them directly, and they worked really good with me. They actually gave me a price break because of working directly with them. And I said, I'd like to be able to try to get it before the Black Forest Star Party. Unfortunately, it didn't go, and they're like, okay, no problem, we'll get it to you. They ended up having a typhoon, so I had to wait an extra week. But they shipped it out real quick as soon as they got their order in.
Yeah, I think I waited a little bit too long because I know that when I ordered mine, a lot of vendors were getting them in, and my vendor didn't have them. And I was the first one. I get there first, but they didn't get them as soon as some of the others. But I like dealing with them. They're a little bit closer to me than some of the others, so.
Yeah, I have none near me up in Western New York, so.
Yeah. Well, this is High Point Scientific, so they're probably the closest to you.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, we drive down the freeway to them. They live down the road here about half an hour from me.
Nice.
That makes it easy.
But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the William Optic and the QSI. It's a perfect fit for each other, and finally getting some clear nights and being able to image, and Sequence Generator Pro makes it so much easier now too.
Yeah. I actually don't do this often, but I bought stock in Sony just because I think that they're going to become profitable in the near future. Sure enough, they lowered their expectations the day after I bought the stock. So
nice.
But that always happens. So
yes, always.
What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to double down, right? I'm supposed to buy twice as much stock because it just got a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
At least you didn't buy Kodak.
At least I didn't buy Kodak. Yeah, definitely. Actually, my father was talking about Kodak for a long time. One of his friends thought it was going to recover before the imminent bankruptcy.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
you did. Yeah.
Bad move.
Yeah.
A while back, a bunch of my guys in my astronomy club decided they'd all buy penny stocks called Mead, and I don't know. I really don't know where they are on that, but they all went out and bought $100 worth of Mead stock, a couple thousand million shares. I don't know what it was at the time. I got to ask them about how they did.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I have one thing to bring up towards the end here. Adam, you started the call by bringing up doing science with our amateur equipment. And I just would like to say that the people at JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories, from NASA, they're a bunch of super nice, really cool people. And I'm going to screen share something that I sent to them. And let me know if you guys can see my screen. Hopefully you can. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is Jupiter animation that I took December 13, 2012. It was Europa. It was a partial transit of Europa. And after I took the image and posted it on Astrobin and Cloudy Nights, a couple of people noticed that there appeared to be a spike on Europa, and that the spike actually appears on the shadow in the transit, and said that that was really unusual. So somebody suggested that I contact JPL about it, that I might have actually captured something. And like Hytham, it turned out to be a false positive, but the guys at JPL are super nice, and they actually called me on my home phone and talked to me and explained how a shadow from a transit can have diffraction spikes. So I just like to throw that out there. They were super cool about it, and they really even appreciated me sending it in. So, like you said, it's better to report a false positive than not to report something that could actually be data. So, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, you're gonna learn something if nothing else.
Exactly.
That's one of the cool things, and I'll actually share one of the closest things to a discovery that I've had. But I will say that I was jumping up and down. Long story short, and I'm sorry, I'm browsing a website right now. I'm browsing for this image right now that I know is somewhere right here. Hopefully it comes up, and I'm gonna click you guys over to it. So there you go. This is actually a solar image I took. Stop me if you can't see it, but I had my solar telescope set up, and
is anyone else seeing Adam's screen?
Yeah, I saw it.
Can you still see it or no?
Oh,
Yes.
I can't.
Okay. So I had my solar telescope set up. I looked through it, and I saw this massive explosion off the side of it. And I had only had my solar telescope for a very short period of time, so I wasn't. I thought I was crazy. I was thinking to myself, they don't get that big, these prominences. I've never seen pictures of prominences this big, and I was actually putting my son to bed, and I'm like, my mind is racing, and I'm like, this seems so big. So what do? I go on Cloudy Nights, and I go into the solar forum, and I don't really see anything, so I record it, and I go back into the solar forum, and just at that same point, somebody posts massive prominence coming off the side of the sun right now. Go out and look at it, and I happen to be recording it, so I shared it, and it was just one of those things where I thought about it, and I was one of the first 5 people on Earth to really pay attention to this. And that's one of those things that if you enjoy solar, that's one of those things. There are these passing moments where you can see something that nobody else is going to see. If you see that with deep sky, it's really interesting. But with deep sky, the next day, everybody's telescopes are going to be focused on it. This entire solar event lasted about 45 minutes, and actually some people have it recorded, but it was later we found out it was a coronal mass ejection, but it was pretty impressive. And I only captured a few frames of it. I got it late, but it was actually pretty massive. I'd say about a third of the solar disk had burst off. So that's the closest thing to a discovery that I've had, but it was one of those jump up and down, pretty excited moments.
That's cool because it looks like it's a helix spiral going out.
Yeah, somebody has a recording of this. It was posted in the solar forum, and it was insane. I don't know. They got the recording right from the start, even before the event started. So I don't know if they timed it perfectly or what, but this was only a mediocre picture, but pretty interesting.
It's pretty
Well,
awesome.
if you notice, most of the imaging that I do, this is 2 frames, it filled an entire frame. And the prominences, think about the solar photos you've seen. I'm using a PGR and a Lunt LS60, which is a pretty common chip size and setup. But most of the solar images you've seen, the prominences are just a little bit on the edge of the disk. The big ones, a little bit more. This is insane. So I was pretty ecstatic when I saw that. After I stopped doubting myself. And we're back out. Any other topics to bring up? Some people had suggested, or I have a few potential hosts for future sessions that I'm trying to line up. Obviously, I've got Alex now for October 19th, and somebody suggested, I believe it was the developer of APT, and I'm looking into some other stuff. If anybody out there knows anybody who would be willing to host a session or has any specific topic or talent, they're welcome to present. You are welcome to reach out to somebody on our behalf. You're welcome to suggest somebody. Besides that, I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to bring up.
No, not really.
All right.
Thanks again for hosting.
No problem.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys, and see you on cloudy nights, and see you next week.
All right.
Good night.
That's it.